Great. That is to say I'm very audible. Okay, so today's segment basically is just an overview of Advanced Excel. I know at some point we have used Advanced Excel somewhere. It's not Advanced Excel per se, but just the normal Excel. I know at some point you must have used it at some point. Probably it will not be our first time, of course, interacting with Excel. But that notwithstanding, our session basically is designed to help us understand the other advanced part of Excels, probably areas that we normally don't use a lot, but these areas are very, very important to us. So there is a structure that I shared with us, what will guide us, of course, towards this training. And remember what prompted us to come up with this is that when you're looking at our Power Business Intelligence, we realize that majority need, of course, the concept of Advanced Excel. And also the beauty part is that those probably who are doing CPA and maybe they have not yet handled business data analytics, then the knowledge herein will also be important for you when we will be looking at, of course, the aspect to do with BDA later on. So what are we expected to cover during this training? What are we expected to cover during this training of ours? In this training, there's a course outline that I shared. In this training, there's a course outline that I shared, which we'll be using, of course, during this training. This is the course outline that, of course, we are going to use to help us, of course, understand the concept of the whole concept of Advanced Excel, of course. So these are what you're having. These are course outline. A moment here. So what will you be expected to understand? First of all, the main objectives of us having this course. The main objective for us to look at Advanced Excel would be, number one, we will be expected to apply complex formulas to solve real-world business problems, because we'll be having key areas that we'll be using to solve these situations. Of course, we will be required to also understand how to analyze and summarize large data sets efficiently using the concepts of pivot tables. Remember when we introduced Power Business Intelligence, for those who are in that class, there's a concept that we dealt with, which I took you through very fast in relation to aspect of pivot table. So in our segment, what we'll be looking at deep concepts of pivot table, where we're supposed to use the pivot table and the best way that we are supposed to consider the same. At this point, we'll also be required to automate repetitive tasks using macros. Remember, macros is a very powerful tool in Excel that you can literally use to design a program, so that once you have the set done, you can always just be inputting the data and you'll find that it is going to refresh itself. The same case, in this case, you'll find that we'll also learn how to clean and prepare messy data sets for professional reporting. You find that this data probably is so kind of not properly arranged. So cleaning our data, in this case, you'll find that we'll be using a very powerful tool that we normally refer to it as what? Power Query. It will help us, of course, to clean our data and design it the way that it will suit us. So at this point, we are expected to go through these various modules, that is module 1, all the way to, of course, module number 7, where module number 7 will just be a matter of us doing whatever that we've learned, practically applying it. So our first module will be for us to remember and to master various functions here, which in this case, let me share this document in our group. It will help us a lot to understand the concept of Excel shortcuts. So let me share this document with us. It will be of very great help to us to understand the whole bit of Excel shortcuts. See, so I'm sharing this document with us, sharing this document in the group right away. That document that I've shared in the group, that is literally basics part, which will help us, of course, to understand some of the Excel shortcuts that are there and ones that we normally tend to use. So I've shared, of course, that bit in, of course, the group, which I'll be taking us through one by one component. I've shared the Excel shortcut file in the group. You can confirm that you are in receipt of the same. So here we're seeing we'll be doing about mastering Excel functions and logical formulas, which will include the nested if statements. Am I recording the class? Okay. So which will include the aspect of nested if statements, yeah. Will also be required here, of course, to understand key concept to do with lookup. Remember, in most of the organizations today, they normally use what? The aspect of lookup when they are considering analyzing their data. Many a times they use lookup function because lookup is a whole powerful tool which will enable us, of course, to analyze our data and give us the results the way I want to achieve. So we have VLOOKUP, we have XLOOKUP, we have index match, where we are combining the index concept and match concept combinations. We have text manipulation at this point, where I'll also be guiding us on how we can join the text, on how we can separate the text. We have date math and automation, which in this case, it will help us when it comes to matters to do with our periods. We have, of course, the new dynamic array formulas, but this one would be much possible if you're using Excel at least 2021, but there are other alternatives which Molim will guide us. In module 2, we'll be expected to understand the aspect of data management and advanced tools, where in this case, how are we going to advanced filter our case? We talk about data validation, the aspect of drop-down list. How can you input the drop-down list in Excel? How can we custom our formulas? See, we have the aspect now. This is the area for those who will be doing, of course, data analytics later on in relation to BDA for CASNEM. You'll find that this area are very important. Conditional formatting with logic and formula-based rules, locking the cells, protecting the sheets, talk about what-if analysis. These are scenario managers, data tables, goal 6. These are very important tools. But later on, you'll find that we will be looking at them as we proceed. So what we will be learning in module 2 is just about managing our data. and using these advanced tools available. Module 3, we will be expected, of course, to understand the aspect of Power Pivot tables and data aggregation, whereby in this case, we find that how do we create pivot table from raw business data? How do we group? How do we integrate the concept of slicers as well as the timelines that you need to have in our workbook? We will be required, of course, to also create pivot charts and create, of course, visual or dynamic dashboards. And many times when you are looking at dashboards reporting, it's always about creating the story behind the data. You need to give life to your data. So how will you give life to your data? You're going to give life to your data by considering, of course, how it interacts with the rest of the sets. It's not like a static component, but you are creating a dynamic dashboard. So that is what will also be expected, of course, to learn under this area here. Of course, we have data cleaning. Data cleaning, in this case, will be required to majorly use the concept of Power Query. For those who are doing Power Business Intelligence, remember, yesterday we analyzed the concept of how Power Query will always help us. It is the same Power Query in Excel that has been integrated in Power Business Intelligence. So if at all you'll be able to understand the Power Query at this point, even looking at it in Power BI, you find that it will be something so easy to flow. So this is what will be required, of course, to have a look at in terms of cleaning our data. We have dashboard design and data visualization. Module 6, now in this case, we will be looking at it not deep, but you'll find that the concept of VBA. VBA is now when you're looking at the other concept whereby you're looking at what? The data analysis expressions. We'll be looking at some languages would be required to create some scripts within our work. You always wonder, how do people normally create a payroll? You just find a person has created literally a payroll using Excel. How will this person create a payroll using Excel? So you'll find that VBA is a whole different and a very interesting tool that Excel has. Is so unfortunate that majority of the people, majority of Excel users, they have never interacted with VBA. If I told you to look at users of Excel that have interacted with the BDA, or rather with the aspect of VBA, we can give like only 10% of the users. Only 10% of the users have interacted with VBA. Yet, without knowing that VBA is usually a very, very powerful tool, which you can create a system actually using VBA. You can literally create a system using VBA. See, so that is, of course, a very important area to get to understand. That is a very important area to get to understand. So once we are through with this bit, we will jump to now the projects that I'll be giving, which these projects, of course, I'll expect us to make sure that at least we have achieved the output that we are going to learn through this training. The project that we'll be having, it will be important for us to be able to apply that knowledge and concept to, of course, create the resultant output that I'll be expected to have. Then, of course, whatever that you're required to have, I'm expecting us to have Excel 2016 or later. At least in this case, the sample data sets Mwalimu will be sharing, and the basic Excel components will be very ideal for us. You see, the basic Excel knowledge will be very, very important for us as we will be looking at advanced Excel. Of course, at this point, at the end, we will be granted a certificate, but only after we have done with the projects. So this is what we are going to look in our training, the aspect of advanced Excel. And you realize that anytime you talk about advanced Excel, it is usually a very, very powerful tool. Yes, Paul, so long as you're having 2016, 2019, 2021, 365, you are in a safe zone. You are in a safe zone. You are in a safe zone. So long as you have this, you are in a safe zone. See, so long as you're having this, that you are in a safe zone. So once we have this, then in this case, I'll want us, of course, to consider this part where I just want us to start with the concept. I want us to start with the concept of course, the aspect to do with module 1. That is just understanding the concept of if, or, and switch component, where in this case, of course, I want us to consider the first bit, the concept of if. So yeah, let me share this. I'm sharing this, of course, in the group right away. Sharing this in the group. Sharing the outline here with us. I'm also sharing the data set that I want us to consider. Today, I want us to do a very simple concept in relation to just understanding about the functions. I want us to do a very simple concept, just about understanding, of course, the functions. I want us to understand something very simple, understanding the functions, of course. So, yeah, that has been shared. So our course is going to start by looking at the aspect of the functions, Excel functions. We have so many forms of Excel functions, which will include, of course, the aspect of basic, general, finance functions, which are very critical. So let me share this data with us. We're going to start with something very simple. Something very simple. Of course, before we jump to the other components. So I'm sharing this with us. Sharing this with us. You will confirm if at all you have received this document. Confirm you are in receipt of the document that I've shared in the group. There's that Excel question on grading. So that will help us to build the foundation. Of understanding the concept of if functions. So this is what has been shared. I want us to open that document with us. I want us to open the document with us. You can have it, you can have it. So just starting from, of course, this bit as we progress. Of course, for those who will be doing BDA next time, I know you guys, you are very lucky because you'll find that now it just be like a revision that we'll be doing. Because majority of the concepts that you're going to learn in advanced Excel, also at this stage, you'll find that it will open the door for the next item that you're going to handle. Of course, I'm giving you time to at least make sure that you've opened the doc. Make sure that you've opened the doc, and all of us, we have it. Make sure that you open the doc, and all of us, we have the doc. So in this document of ours, you can see that it is a real data that probably it is always used when it comes to matters to do with the aspect of grading. And grading in this context, you'll find that it cuts across all elements of course, any aspect of institution. So in this case, it will introduce us to what you are referring to as, of course, Excel functions. Some will be basics. Some, of course, will also be aspect of detailed components. See? So when you are talking about Excel functions, all we need to do is to simply to understand that these are functions that will help us in all to operate our set. These are the functions that will always help us to operate our data, and in this case, to manipulate the data to fit what we want to achieve. See, and therefore, I want us to jump to the types of functions that are always there. Types of functions that, of course, will always be required to consider. Type of functions that will always be required to consider having this bit. Type of functions that will always be required, of course, to consider. Number one, there is common function that majority of us, I know we might have interacted with the same. This is a basic part, of course, of Excel. You can remember mathematical functions. These are mathematical functions. Where in this case, of course, you must have considered the concept of the sum functions. Remember what you're doing in your basic Excel, the aspect of the sum functions, see? Number two, we normally tend to talk about, this is to simply help us to, of course, sum up the numbers. Recall the aspect of the round off function. See, the round off function. In this case, remember, all we need to do is to round numbers to specified number of digits. We have absolute function. There is a absolute function. I know some of these we did them at our basic level. We have the aspect of the concept of power. You want to raise a value to power of something. Of course, these are basic Excel functions that we might have interacted with them at some point. We have the other aspect of statistical functions. Statistical functions. Also, I know without knowing, or maybe without knowing or knowing, in this case, you must also have interacted with statistical functions. So using that big word, all that you're considering here is how to determine the average in Excel. Remember, how are you determining the average in Excel given a set of data? When you want to count, of course, see, in this case, maybe when you want to determine the maximum set of what you're having, see, or maybe you want to determine the minimum of what you're having, see, you must have interacted with this. Talk about determining the standard deviation using Excel, see. Maybe you want to determine the aspect of variance using Excel. These are just but statistical functions that you normally tend to have in Excel. Very common. Now, an area that we normally tend to use a lot, these are logical functions, because it's always about decision making in Excel. So you're having, of course, the logical functions here. Logical functions, see? And when we are talking about logical functions, these are the if analysis, see? Where we want to return a value based on a condition. We have and, in this case, or maybe or, see? We're going to interact with this a lot. We just want to test multiple conditions. We have the aspect of this function not, where we want to reverse a logical value. See, and if at all there is an error, what should I tell Excel to give us? So in this case, if at all there is an error, you'll find that you're going to instruct Excel to give you a specific what? A specific item. So returns a custom value for errors. So we are going to interact with this area a lot. The logical functions, you're going to interact with this area a lot. And even in your work or day-to-day activities, you'll find that amongst the key functions that we normally tend to use, literally, these are the key functions and statistical functions as well, other than the standard deviation, because rarely you use a standard deviation, or unless probably you are in an industry that you're dealing with purely elements of statistics. See? We have the other part here, which is also important to understand, what we normally refer to as the lookup and reference functions. Also very key. Anytime you get an interview and you're asked of Excel, many a times they always tend to test you practically when you're about how to use the lookup functions. Very common in our day-to-day business activities. In this context, we have various forms because it will help us majorly to search and retrieve data. See, these lookups will always help us to search and retrieve data. Imagine you're having a data set of, say, like 20 or 10,000 transactions. You want to achieve only a specific element. You'll find that the tool that will help you to achieve this will be your knowledge of lookup function. See, so lookup, ideally as it is a very powerful and very important tool that we must always tend to make sure that we have in our fingertips, because it will help us, of course, to achieve what we want to achieve in terms of understanding vertical lookup, is from understanding the horizontal lookup, getting to know, of course, the concept of X lookup. See, so X lookup, these are modern. You'll find that not unless you have Excel 2021, you can have X lookup. You'll find that the lower version, they don't have X lookup, because this is a modern lookup function which has come to replace V and H lookup, but I'll be guiding you. So the alternative of X lookup is index match. These are two different functions. We have the index, which will return a value from a range. We'll be looking at it, don't worry. We're just listing it. We have, of course, the match, which in this case, we find the position of a value. Now we have, of course, the other function that we might refer to as what? Offset. Offset returns a range based on a reference. See? So these are also very important functions that many a times we will be interacting with them. Many a times we will be interacting with them. Of course, we'll be diving deep and consider each and every item separately. Each and every item separately. See? 5, we have financial. These are where we are now in our industry. Financial functions. Where in financial functions, you realize that you want to compute the aspect of loan computation. There is aspect of PMT. It will help us to calculate the loan payment. You want to calculate the net present value. We have the NPV function, which we'll be looking at it. You want internal rate of return. We'll be having the function, which will be very important here. You want to determine the future value. Excel will give you that without any stress. Excel will give you that without any form of stress. See? So this is very important to note. And at this point, remember, we have so many functions, which also include, if at all you're not in finance, we have engineering functions. See, we have the database functions. Because database, we'll be looking at it in Power Business Intelligence. Let me just list a bit here. The database functions. When we'll be looking at Power Pivot, you'll find that the database functions, it will help us to analyze structured data tables. See, where we'll be doing about the dsum. See, we have the dsum function, which sums the data based on the criteria. We have, of course, the dcount function, which in this case, it counts based on conditions. We have the daverage function, which in this case, it averages based on conditions. See, so all these are simply, of course, key components that will help us, of course, to understand the whole bit of Excel. So in our case today, because in this case, yes, we could have interacted with this at some point. I want us to consider this function number 3, logical functions. I want us to look at the logical functions to understand and also to perform operations with this concept of what? With the logical functions. Because once you're able to understand the logical functions, you'll find as we proceed to interact and maybe to interact with this data, then you'll find that it will help us, of course, it will help us as we proceed. So what I want us to do is to look at this function that we're referring to as what? The logical functions. Logical functions is what I want us to start with. And in that case, of course, you're going to look at it in this sheet of ours. Logical functions. Logical functions. Logical functions. So in our logical functions, in this case, we are starting with a very powerful tool that we are referring to it as what? As the if function. If at all you're able to get if function, the rest will basically flow. So you're about if function. You're about if function. See? If function. So what about if function? Anytime we are to look at if function, what we need to be able to understand here is that this function, of course, it tests, see, it tests a condition. It tests a condition and returns, see, and returns one value if the condition is true and another if false. See? So it is more to do with testing a particular condition. It is more to do with testing a particular condition. More to do with testing a particular condition. So we have it there. Very, very important. See? So once you're able to know that, of course, it helps us to test, of course, a condition and is kind of you're communicating. You see, this is a language that you're communicating with Excel. Just the same case the way you're communicating like this, like, you know what? Say, for example, if at all you understand, raise a hand, you'll find that you're getting that in a person who raise a hand. If at all you're having a question, ask a question, you're going to raise your hand and ask a question. The same way we are communicating, the same case communicating with Excel, it is by use of what? By use of these functions. Communicating with Excel is by use of this function. I want to tell Excel to give me this particular set. So how am I going to tell Excel to give me this particular set? I'm going to tell Excel to give me this particular element by using what? By using these functions that you're looking at. See? By using this function that we are looking at. So the logic is literally what we want to test. See, this is a condition that we want to evaluate. Say, for example, at this point, I want us to communicate with Excel. I believe all of us, we've been able to extract this data of ours. I believe all of us have been able to extract this data of ours. I want us to do something very simple here. I want us to communicate with Excel. I want us to communicate with Excel. The first communication is very simple. The first communication that I want us to give Excel is very simple. So I want Excel to tell me, in this case, given our data, you remember you're communicating, you are instructing Excel. So the first test I want us to do is this. I want Excel to give me this. If my score is 50% and below, or if it is below 50%, if it is below 50%, then I should have what? Fail. It should give me a fail. If my score is 50% and above, if my score is 50% and above, 50%, meaning that 50 is included, 50% and above, I'll want Excel to give me what? A pass. This is a simple communication that you want to command Excel. Remember, you're having, say, like 10,000 transactions. You have like 10,000 transactions. These are simple, a simple area. This is just basic. This is not even advanced. So we want to communicate with Excel. I need to give Excel instruction to give me the result that I want. Say in the first context here, I want us to do it together. I want us to do this together kindly. This is our score here, or term it as grade. I want us to do this together. The first component, I want us to do this together. So follow the steps with Mwalimu kindly. We are doing it practical, you're doing it together. Equal sign, if. Equal sign, if. Then you press your tab. Press your tab. Equal sign, if. Equal sign, then if. So in our syntax, we can see that I am being asked logical test. This is a condition that you want to evaluate. This is a condition that we want to evaluate. So I come, whatever that you want to evaluate is our aggregate score. So you pick the aggregate score. You select the aggregate score. Then if this score is equal or greater than 50, we are communicating. We are giving Excel instruction to give us our output. So we are saying, if this score is equal or greater than 50, if that is true, Excel kindly indicate that this is a pass. So I have to type text. And anytime you are typing text in our formula, which in this case, you have to have opening and closing quotes. So we open our quote. In this case, if that is the case, then Excel kindly give me a pass. Comma, if that is not true, if this is not the case, that is the value is false. If that is not the case, kindly Excel give me what? Fail. I have instructed Excel. I've given Excel an instruction to perform. Then I do enter. So that once I do enter, regardless of the data that I'm having, if you scroll down, you'll find that Excel will automatically grade. Where I'm having a value which is less than 50, you see, I'm getting fail. You're getting fail. You're getting fail. I'm going to repeat this step again. We've said you have, say, like even 10,000, you're having 100,000 transactions. And remember, you're given a task by your manager. You're asked, kindly give me the results of this. We want to establish where were we making losses. Where were we making losses? Give me the report right now in the next 5 minutes. Given this data of ours, extract from me where we are making losses. And your boss, your manager is waiting. He has given you 5 minutes only to perform this. So that's why we're saying that in this context, I repeat again, we use if function. So we do equal sign if tab. My logical test is what we want test, what we want to look at. See, the condition that we want to evaluate. The condition that we want to evaluate is our aggregate score. So we select that aggregate score. Then we tell Excel, if my aggregate score is equal or greater than 50, Excel, kindly give me a pass, opening quote, pass. Otherwise, if at all I am not getting any other value which is not equal or greater than 50, kindly Excel, give me a fail. See, give me a fail. Enter. Do you want to accept correction? Yes. In this case, you have that. So instead of repeating the same procedure over and over again, place your cursor at this cell. There's that thick cross below that cell. You drag it down. You drag it down. You see? So in this case, whatever that we've established, regardless of the data that I'm having, we can clearly see here that, at this point, where am I having fail? Imagine you're having, say, like 1,000 transactions. You won't be going looking one by one. You won't be going looking one by one. What you can do, this is another powerful tool that you can use, which I want us to use. What you can do, I want us to apply conditional formatting. So highlight where your grading is, regardless of the number of transactions that you're having. If it is 10,000, if it is 100,000, you just highlight. And when you're having a question, make sure you raise your hand, you ask a question. So we need to establish where did we have, of course, fail. So I come to conditional formatting. Of course, we want to go to highlight cell rules. Kindly follow the steps we said. First thing, you highlight what you want to do a format on. We come to conditional formatting, highlight cells rules, then come and have text. So text that contains, say you want to identify the number of people that do what, the number of people that fail. So just type fail. What color do you want to establish on that? It is upon you to select. Maybe you want, say, like yellow color. You want red text. It's upon you to select. It's upon you to identify that. See, so maybe you can go with light red. So, okay. So instead of you wasting time trying to use your physical eyes to identify where you had a fail, you can easily come and highlight this so that I can see out of my data what has been highlighted. These are areas that we had failed. Simple procedures in this case, by just, of course, using what Excel functions, you have your results. My manager, this is what I've determined. Within 5 minutes, you'll have established, of course, within 5 minutes, you'll have established what you have been asked to do. Less than 5 minutes, regardless of the number of transactions that you're dealing with, already you have your results, which you can present. You have your results, which you can present. And you can go further and even extract the specific areas that you had a fail. You can go to specific other more formatting, whereby you can simply establish where you had that fail. See, So in this context, let me show you further analysis. What we can do, these are now basic Excel, of course, where we want to come and do what? We want to filter. So you select where we're having our title. You come editing. You want to do what? We want to filter. So by filtering, in this case, once I click at that point, I want to filter by color, and probably this is the color that I'm filtering. You see, I'm going to get the specific people that fail, regardless of the number of data that you're having. I'm going to get specific people that fail, and I can literally trace them to the core. I'll see that these are the people that fail. So Nick, Penina, and Regina, kindly call them, or these are the products that are making for us losses. Who are the persons responsible with these products? We need to know, why are we making losses on these products? What can we do to improve? Now, if this data you extract it in Power Business Intelligence, Power BI will tell you the reason probably why you are making these losses. And the same case, Power Business Intelligence will enable you to know the corrective measures that you might expected to take. From the whole set, regardless of how huge your data is, within some few clicks, you can easily determine the results. See, I repeat again the procedure of filtering. Let me repeat again this procedure of filtering so that we can get it all well. Initially, your data was like this. I believe you followed how to the procedure that you went and do what? To the procedure that you went and at least highlighted areas where we are having our fail. If at all it is a business you are analyzing the losses, still you can do that. You can literally analyze the losses. So we're saying that in this context, you come and highlight, of course, your title. You come to edit, then you do what? You want to filter. So on filtering, if at all your case is highlighted, you can come grade. Then we want to filter by color. This is a color to your filtering, so that it will give you specific areas where we had losses. See, specific areas where we had losses. Kindly, if you're having a question, I need to answer your question. Ask that question, the one that you feel you have Mwalimu to answer for us right now. You can pose a question on the chat, or let me enable you to unmute. You can ask a question where you feel, Mwalimu, honestly, at this point, kindly, can you repeat? Mwalimu is here for us. You can literally unmute. I've given you, that right. You can unmute. You ask a question where you feel like, Mwalimu, honestly, at this point, can you come again? Mwalimu will be here to help us. But this is the power of Excel. And remember, whatever that we've done, this is just nothing but the basic part. See, so it depends where did you learn your basic Excel. You see, this is just the basic part of Excel. Yeah, this is just basic part of Excel. We've not even jumped to, of course, the aspect of advanced, because what I want us to do if is advanced. Yes, Sarah?
Can you repeat the first process to determine whether it is less than 50%? That one, as you started with if, then into bracket, the first step, the kindly.
Sure, no worries. So
okay,
we say,
thank you.
We are doing if, so in this case, equal sign, if. These are our function that we're using. So logical test is what we want to determine. Logical test is what we want to determine. See, what we want to determine. And the condition that you want to determine in this case is our aggregate score. So after doing equal sign, say you do equal sign if, then you click tab. So logical test, to come and select your logical test. So if my logical test, this is now a logical test. If my logical test, we're saying, is equal or greater than 50, I will tell Excel, if that is true, Excel, kindly give me a pass, comma. If that is not true, if it is false, kindly, and make sure you are opening this opening quote, kindly Excel, give me a fail. You close that bit, see? So of course, in this context, you just close your case, then enter. You have it at that point. So once you have it here, Sarah, we've said, on the bottom right cell where we're having the text, once you see that thick cross, you see this thick cross here, the thick cross that you can see here. Once you have this thick cross, just drag it down all through. Drag it down all through, so that eventually you will have this as our output. You'll have this as our output. You'll have this as our output. Have we achieved that, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
Great. So that is what we are supposed to do. So whatever that you've achieved, that was just but simple bit. See, that was just but the basic Excel. So my question is, Felix, is it to find a basic Excel? Did you handle this in your basic Excel?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Great. James, these are things that you did in your basic Excel, right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You did them in basic Excel, or you're okay because you learn it right now? That can also be another question.
Yeah, sure. I think I've got it interesting when you did the filtering. I didn't have that knowledge.
Okay, great. At least something you've learned. This person was doing with iMac.
This Dennis.
Yes, Dennis. Oh, Dennis. Great.
Yeah,
have you learned that point?
You have done it.
Great.
It has selected the phase and the pass, yeah.
Great. We have Jay. Who is Jay? Only yes, that is. You have G.
James Okia.
Great. We have Lincoln. You are pro on that, right? That was basic, right? I can see Juan. Juan, you learned something? Or that was just basic? Juan.
I'm okay.
Great. Wesley. Ball. Are we on the same page?
Yes, we are.
Great. Yvonne, are we on the same page?
Yes, I've learned something.
Great. Yvonne, are we on the same page? Eric, are we on the same page?
Yes, we are.
Great. Admin. Who was this? Who was joined with admin? Admin. Now, let us make things more interesting. We jump to the concept that we normally refer to as what? The nested if function. Now, this is now part of advanced. Whatever that we've done, that was just the basic part. Let us jump to this bit that we normally refer to as the nested function. Nested if function. So at what point are we going to have the nested if function? You find that in this case, I'm having different criteria that we need to run. We have different criteria that we need to consider. Different criteria, see? So, different criteria, that is to say, I have to nest if inside if function. I have to put if function inside another if function. See? I need to put if function inside another if function. And in this case, look at our case. We are told that the science department wishes to know the performance of Eastern students who score the following average marks. So the grading system, in this case, is 70 to 100 first class honors, 61 to 69 second class upper, 50 to 59 second class lower, 40 to 49, we have aspect of what? Pass. So we are required to use Excel function, determine the grade scored by each student. The same case, we'll want to determine the profit probably in different locations. How are we going to achieve that? Now, this is where Excel will be more interesting. So we use the nested if function. We use the nested if function. So this case, we are putting if inside the if. So what are we going to do? So we come again to consider the second bit of grading system. Now, as per what you are given, so let us follow this procedure together. We start with the same function, if, tab. My logical test is our aggregate score. So we do this. If my aggregate score is equal or greater with our first range, 70 to 100. So if my logical test is equal or greater than 70, comma, this person will have scored first class honors. See, we close the bracket, or rather we close the the speech. Comma. So instead of going to false, we introduce another if. If, again, tab, the same function, comma, or rather is equal or greater to the second bracket is, this case, 61. Or in this case, you can take 60. Actually, it was supposed to be 60. If my value is equal or greater than 60, if that is true, I'll want Excel to give me second class upper. We close that. Again, we do comma. I introduce another if. My logical test is just the same. So if, in this case, my value is greater or equal, the next bracket is what? The next bracket here is, of course, 50 to 59. So if at all it is greater or equal to 50, I will tell Excel, if that is true, Excel give me, of course, second class lower. We close that. We are doing this together. Again, comma, introduce another if tab. My logical test is just the same. If my value is equal or greater than, we are now on this area, which is 40. If that is true, kindly, Excel, give me a pass. See? Comma. Otherwise, if at all I am not in any of the range there, if at all I am not in any of the range, Excel, kindly give me a fail. How many conditions have we inserted? 1, 2, 3, 4. So you close your bracket by the conditions that you've inserted. 1, 2, 3, 4. You've inserted 4 conditions. 1, 2, 3, 4. You close your bracket by using 4 cases. You've inserted 4 conditions, so therefore you put 4 closing brackets. Enter. Accept. So that in this case, once you drag this all the way, Excel will definitely give us the grade. See, even if I told you to add, look at this case. Probably before we ask a question, let me show you this. Even if I told you to add, say like 11, person 12, person 13, person 14, person 15, say for example, maybe we have Kadum, Kano,
Mariam.
Miriam. You can have any other name like Ogum, Richie. We've forgotten Brayo. Brayo and Kevo must always be somewhere. We have Kevo here. Kevo and Brayo. Kevo and Brayo must always be somewhere. So, in this case, assuming maybe Kadum, maybe you have, say, like 39. You see, say, like maybe Kano, maybe you have, say, like 35. Miriam, say, we have, say, like 69. Kevo, maybe Kevo, we give him 50. Brayo, a piano, we can give him, say, like, say, 45. See. So you'll find that whatever that you've done, regardless of the set that you'll be adding, it will be giving the aggregate score. See? So it will tell us like, at this point, we want to establish how many people had first class, how many people, of course, had passed, how many people had second class lower, second class upper. This is what Excel can do for us. See? So this is now the advanced bit, because whatever that we've incorporated here is what we're referring to as the nested if function. Nested if, we put if inside if. You put if inside if. See, put if inside if. The power of, and this, the power of Excel. See? So many times we'd always be like, hey, in this case, we are graduating more than, say, 2,000 people. Did the person sat down and started inserting this one by one? No. So the booklet is generated. So long as I'm having the score, I can easily do this within 5 minutes, regardless of the number of transactions that are there, regardless of the number of list of data that is there. If at all it is, say, like 3,000, 5,000, imagine you can do that within 5 minutes. And you come up with your grading. You come up with your grade. Maybe I want to identify how many people scored masters, how many people scored first class. Of course, you highlight. You come to conditional formatting. Then we want to highlight, say, like, in this case, we want to highlight ourselves the text that contain first class. I can just have first, literally. I want to give me, say, like, green. See? So I'll be able to identify out of the set of this class of 15, only 2 people managed to score first class honors. We can do further analysis and try to count. See, but this one I'm going to guide you, of course, as we proceed. You can go ahead and literally try to count. See, whereby you normally look at the count, probably this one I'm going to guide you, count if. See, where you're inserting a criteria. See, a range, probably this is a whole range. See, criteria, maybe I need, say, like first class. Those who had scored first class, I need first class. First class honors, say. I need to determine those who had scored first class. See, it will tell me that out of my set, it is only 2 people who had scored first class. See, I want to determine the number of people who had scored, literally, say, like second class. I can literally use count if, but I'm going to guide you on count if as we proceed. See, because it is amongst the Excel functions that we've said here, the aspect of the count. See, we'll be looking at it somewhere here. So you'll find that regardless of how huge the data is, you can easily manipulate this data the way you deem fit. The way you deem fit. See, you can literally manipulate your data the way you deem fit. So what we've done here, it is just nothing but the aspect of if function, where there are those elements that we'll be looking at. There's count if, there's sum if. I think in our next segment, you're going to look at sum if. We look at the count if. We look at the count ifs, if at all I want to put various scenarios. Say, like, I want to determine how many sales did we make in Nairobi and who made the sales. You see, you're pulling out the data. I want to determine, say, like, we had made sales, say, like, in Northeastern region. Who made these sales and how much did this person make to the company? Because I want to promote this person. This is now analytics using Excel. This is now analytics using Excel. So you find that Excel is a whole interesting package and tool. If I told you to use it clearly, it will differentiate you with so many of your colleagues. If you're to be put on the same table with your colleague, you'll find that this is where the value comes in. You are all accountants, yes, but who has extra skills? Why should I select you? You're all accountants, you all have CPAs, you all probably are in advanced or intermediate level. You're all done with CPAs, but then what will differentiate you from this other person? The soft skills. The soft skills that you are learning right now. You're given a task. A person is taking the whole day to do that task. You're doing that task within 5 minutes. The value that you're bringing to the company. The value that you're bringing to the company. That is what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at. So this today was just, but of course, an intro part. If function is the least or kind of, I can say the most common function that probably you can be introduced with in Excel, and more so the aspect of the nested if. So next session, we are going to jump deep into other elements. Next session, we're going to jump deep into, of course, other elements, where in this context, of course, we'll be looking at the concept of sum ifs, we'll be looking at the concept of the count ifs, we'll jump ahead and consider, if possible, of course, the aspect of how we can be able to at least use VLOOKUP. See? But ideally, this is what we need to know. So the next class is on Saturday. Next class is on Saturday. Wale wa mpira, I think Saturday we can meet probably from, we can meet early, so that maybe you can meet from 6 p.m. to around 8 p.m. You can meet from 6 p.m. to around 8 p.m. At least we look at, I think this day, only today we started late because I was late somewhere. Within 2 hours next time, I think we can do a lot. We can literally do a lot. We can literally do a lot so that you guys can be able to experience, of course, the aspect of Manchester City. Nani anataja Manchester? Kwani wanataka kutuharibia class sasa? Is Manchester a team really? Manchester is not a team. Sorry for those who support Manchester. Manchester is not a team, they con. You ni a certain team in a yes, the team, that's not a team. So let us meet at Saturday 6. To Manchester, that is not a team. Na pia wale wa next season. Pia those are not teams too. You can tell us, yeah. So in this case, guys, any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? Wale wa next season, that is not something that you can tell us. Those are our flower girls, yeah? Those are our flower.
I missed around that point of highlighting, but I think I will pick it from the video.
So I definitely pick it. Okay.
Because the grading system and the grade, all of them had worked it out well.
That is very okay. I'm going to share the video actually. Okay. Okay.
I'm joining late.
You're joining late? Yeah, I'll share the video. Okay.
Then my final concern.
Yes, please.
How can you maybe analyze data which is in 2 sheets, maybe sheet 1 and sheet 2?
We are going to work it out. That one you can.
Okay.
Great. We're going to work that one out. Great. So you guys have a night out to Flower Girls team next season, and the other team when you're almost relegated. You guys have a very good night. See you Saturday. Good evening. Bye bye.